Hi, I'm Tony from Betting-analyst.com, professional gambler for over 30 years and an industry specialist and consultant. Today we're going to be answering some of the most asked questions about professional gambling. Stay along to the end if you want to hear some funny stories as well, and give us a thumbs up if you like this video.
What was your journey into gambling?
Interesting question actually. Obviously it's a long time ago because I'm not the youngest anymore, but yeah, I don't come from a gambling family or nothing like that. But a friend of mine, his father used to be a gambler, and I used to see him always losing money. So I thought to myself, well, if you stood on the other side of the fence taking his bets, you would be winning money. So that made me sort of get thinking about it. And then I started laying bets at school, actually on the football each week. I used to write my own prices down, and yeah, the kids at school used to put a couple of quid on or whatever. It was smaller money back then, but they used to bet with me. And then it sort of progressed from there. I started then getting interested in actually, doing a little bit of betting as well, and specifically horse racing because that's what he was betting. And my maths teacher at school was actually a fanatic of horse racing, so we used to go to the races with him. And then after school, I think I just turned 18 at the time, I saved quite a bit of money. I got like 300 quid put together, and I decided I was going to attack the race meeting at York. Well, after 4 races, I was down to like 150 quid. I was thinking, oh my God, I'll be going home tonight. But, progress from there. And I actually finished that meeting with 30,000 in profit. That made me go on and get a betting license. I then became an on-course bookmaker. I was the youngest person in the UK to get an on-course license. And after that, the internet betting started to come. And I started consulting some companies how to get licenses, how to get into it, which countries to get into, etc. And then later acquisitions, and then we started our own betting syndicate. We was a group of people, and yeah, we went from sort of data analysts, supplying services to bookmakers. It was just a bit of a circle, and yeah, I think that's about the basics of it. Yeah, that's how I got into gambling.
What sports are you betting and which are most profitable?
That's another good question. Well, obviously, with the background in bookmaking on the racecourse, horse racing is obviously big for myself on a personal basis. You can get some very good returns from horse racing. So, like in the UK, I don't think the bookmakers have got any chance of winning nowadays. The shops, the chains, you've got like 17 to 18% profit margin, which is. But again, you've got problems with it. You can't always get big money on. They limit you very quickly. You have to start moving around shops, using bet places, etc., etc. With football betting, the top leagues, you can put 50 grand on a top league game, but your margin is going to be relatively small, maybe 2 or 3% over a period of time. With the lower leagues, you probably get 1,000 on, but again, your margins are going to be much better. So, it depends on yourself. But in order, I would say racing is the biggest return. The football is the sort of thing that you can work out over a long period. And WTA tennis is also quite profitable for us. We do also bet US sports such as NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and so on. But yeah, that's the basis order.
What are your thoughts on arbitrage betting?
Well, it's not for me personally. I think basically arbitrage shows also a bit of a weakness because a lot of times you're giving some of the value back, right? So just as an example, let's just say, a bookmaker, you saw 2.1 on one side and 2.0 on another side, right? And you thought to yourself, I'm going to take both sides, split the bet, and I'm going to guarantee myself a profit. Now, if 20 bookmakers are offering the odds of 2 on the team B and only one bookmaker is offering 2.1 on team A, I would just bet the team A because there's too many bookmakers with 2.0 on the other side, you see. So I'm not really willing to give part of that value back to them. And that's the thing, right? So Me personally, not much arbing, but it's okay for some people.
What are your thoughts on trading?
Well, it's not something that I do a lot of. You need to sit there and just work with very small margins all day. I took exception to when Betfair introduced that premium charge when they started charging traders 65% of the profits. So, you was already paying their commission, and then on top of that, you were paying their premium charge. So, it's okay for people who are willing to sit there all day and work for small margins, but I actually prefer the betting side of things. What I do, if I think odds are going to drop heavily on something, then I will bet it with more money than sell part of it back. So, for example, right, let's say you want 1,000 on a team at, and the odds are like 7-4, and you think the odds are going to drop to 6-4, right? So I would actually bet 2,000 at 7-4. And then I would sell 1,000 back when it had dropped to 6-4, thus creating myself 1,000 at odds of 2-1. I'll show you the maths in the on the blog, but yeah, that's about it. That's all I could say with trading.
Do you place your own bets?
No, not really. The truth of the matter is we use bet places for that, or runners going to shops, just order the bets, because you see, you've got to be logged into your accounts. You've got to, we're betting obviously in different jurisdictions, etc. So, it's much easier for us to get somebody to do it. I will place a bet for myself if I go to the racetrack, or if I'm, near a betting shop and I see some value or something like this. But other than that, no, I prefer other people to do it for me.
Are you using betting exchanges?
Well, much less than I used to. But as a former bookmaker, I just can't help myself sometimes with the urge. I've got to lay a bet if I see something that is a favourite and I think it's going to get beat, especially with horse racing, then I'll go and lay a bet. With the actual football betting and other sports, we tend to find that we get better odds in Asia. Right, we don't have to pay any commission as such, right? Okay, with the betting exchanges, we can get a much lower commission rate than what you guys are probably getting because we have negotiated such a rate. But that's purely for, laying and betting, but not trading. So I don't use them as much as I used to, but sometimes.
Do you use sports modeling, and do you have any advice?
Yes, we do use sports modelling. Obviously, as the founder of a data analyst company, it's something that we obviously have to use. Any advice? Well, the thing is with sports modelling, it's quite complex. So unless you know what you're doing, you've got to really sort of look at other means. I would advise anybody that's coming into the business for the first time to actually look at, simplify things, don't overthink anything. So, for example, I would recommend that you concentrated on, odds collecting and, fathoming out how you could beat the system, how you could beat the odds, and not really delving too much into the actual sports betting yourself. If you are going to do actually sports modelling, then look at it on a one-to-one situation, like head-to-head games like tennis or something like this, because it's much easier. The factors are a lot less. You can use like the sort of ELO model, and that would give you some kind of a way to get from A to B quite quickly. Because in tennis, whatever you've got your sort of head to edge, you've got your ranking, you've got the surface, you've got current form, long-term form, how what they expected to produce at a certain tournament, etc. The nearness of the last tournament and how they take games. There's a lot of stuff you can read in a player's profile. With football betting, it's slightly different and a lot more sort of complex, because you've got to start working out expected goals, a lot of expectations, and look at the weather conditions, take into consideration so many possibilities, and it really is complex. And all I would say to you is that it can be done, but you shouldn't start running before you learn to walk. So that's what I would advise you as far as sports modeling went.
Why are you offering one-to-one coaching and mentoring?
Well, one thing's certain, it's not for the money, even though obviously I expect people to pay something. Obviously when you're working with betting companies as such, you can charge them a lot more than you can individual people. But I'm a great believer that anybody can learn how to beat the bookmakers, right? It's relatively simple. Subjects like horse racing are more difficult, and I wouldn't like to necessarily take somebody who didn't have a clue of horse racing on that journey. But in terms of sports betting, if you understand numbers and you understand the logic, then you can do things pretty quickly and start churning a profit. The only one issue I've got is obviously, people have got to follow through, because it's that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. But at the same time, I just think it's really simple for the typical person with half a brain to make a living from gambling if they do things right.
What's the challenge going forward?
Well, professional gambling itself has become a bit of a postcode lottery. I'm talking now about individuals, of course, because as betting syndicates or as companies, we can set ourselves up to bet anywhere in the world. But for other people, obviously, jurisdiction where you are is going to be one thing. And then there are barriers as well, like, governments are now taking a lot of more concern. So they're asking companies to prove that the funding is legal, that people can afford to play, that they have to supply a lot of documentation, etc. So, these are obviously issues that are going to be problematic. Yeah. Another problem is, I think a lot of bookmakers are going to be going out of business because some of them are too small to sort of handle it. They're not getting the volumes, they're only getting the hot players. And that's obviously going to be an issue. The cost for bookmakers is going up, and that makes it a lot less competitive as well for us, because that will be incorporated into the betting odds. So I do definitely see problems. But that's why you've got to make sure that you can bet in places like Asia, or with the betting exchanges at a very low rate, or you can get into other countries that have still got options really. So I would recommend anybody that was starting off by themselves to either get in Malta, somewhere like this, where they can bet with anybody who they wish to. The UK has obviously become a lot more sort of problematic. The US is taking off, but it's just more like for bonus abusers as such, right? But there is definitely barriers, but you can always work a way around them.
What advice would you give others starting their journey?
Get to profitability quickly. That's the obvious advice. You need a strong mindset. You can't be egged on in this business, that's for sure. I think things like don't follow the herd, because people are all betting one thing, it doesn't mean that you should follow them, right? Only the first in get the cherry. So, this is things that should be avoiding. When the price is gone, it's gone. Leave it. It's like buses. The next bus will be along shortly. Stay away. Don't be tempted to bet something at lower odds. Learn how to odds watch. Let's just say that you're on one of the odds checking websites, and you something that you want to bet is 5-1, right? And it's 5-1 everywhere. You don't need to take it, because something will give, right? You only need to step in and take that 5-1 if the odds are starting to go, or if there are only 2 or 3 companies offering those odds. So you can wait. You can afford to wait. Something will give on that. Yeah, have as many accounts as possible. The thing about betting accounts is, if you've got one, that's your limitation. You've only got one set of prices. You need a lot, so you need odds. And so the more accounts you can get, the better. It's a business, right? If you start losing, don't worry about it. If you're doing things right, it's not something to be emotional about, right? You need to treat it as a business. Don't dip winning accounts. And by that I mean is, if you start winning, right, a bookmaker, and you're still getting away with it, you don't need to take money from that account. As soon as you do, they're going to have a quick look at what you bet, and then you might get limited the next day. So, things like this, and make sure that you're 100% legally covered, because sometimes you saw probably recently in the news, one guy took Betfred to court and got 1.7 million from them. We know that they tried to get out of paying. He could do it because it was legal. Imagine that he was doing that with an offshore bookmaker, or he was betting in a country where you couldn't do this, right? So a lot of the time, if you're doing everything right, you will always win in court, believe me. So do things everything legal.
Do you have any funny or not so funny stories to share?
Oh, well, too many, I guess. Whew, that's a big one. I will give you a couple. I'll give you actually three. One is we saw an opportunity to bet in Switzerland, so we took a lot of people over there. These was on some pre-season football games. This was like a state monopoly, putting up odds and basically leaving them. And the odds in Europe were just changing massively at the time. So we thought, okay, great, we can step in, just clean up. You can bet whatever you wish to with this company. And so we were placing these like with a state monopoly, and we would do like 3 from 4s, 4 from 5s, multiple bets. Well, anyway, the moral of the story is a lot of these bets won, and we finished up making supposedly a profit of about 120,000. But what we didn't realise was you have to pay 30% tax on anything over a certain amount in Switzerland. And so every one of these bets was 30% less, 30% less, 30% less. I think the time that we paid for the journey there, the hotels, a bit of food for everybody, we probably broke even. So we made enough for maybe a doner kebab when we got back or something like this. It was ridiculous. Another one was in Malta. In the old days, you weren't allowed to bet in Malta. They just had like a state monopoly as well. But again, the left price hanging, you could get a lot of money on without them changing the odds, just like it was slightly different to the bookmakers, no chance of limitations, no chance of anything. So we used to work with this one shop owner who used to place all our bets for us, right? And it was just amazing. Some days, this guy would be spending like 15 hours just placing our bets, like 100 treble, 100 treble, 100 treble, and so on, right? So that went on and on and on and on. And I think we made a fortune from this company. And this guy was obviously happy because he was getting he was getting his like 8% on every bet that was being placed. And we were all winners. I guess those are two big positive stories. The other one would be in Baden-Baden races. There was a bookmaker on the race course, and this guy, he was known for taking a good bet, right? So me and a couple of partners, we wanted to get some decent bets on what we thought were absolute certain winners. And first, so I went up to the counter and asked, what could we bet? Oh, you can bet whatever you wish to. No problem, no problem, no problem. Right, the first day, I think we bet 50,000. We placed 4 bets. We did a 20,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. The guy took them all, 7 to 2, 9 to 4, 5 to 2, 4 to 1. 3 of the 4 won. Yeah. The next day we went back and said, okay, we took the money, and we wanted to place some more bets, limits, €10. So that's that's the way bookmakers are. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you start winning, they start crying, and no doubt, if we'd lost all the first bets, it would have taken 50,000 off us on the second day, but it wasn't meant to be. And I suppose they're the 3 funny stories that come to my head. Thanks for staying to the end of this video. We hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something from it. Hopefully that you can start your journey and become a professional gambler. Visit our site, go through the tutorial section. We have blogs on there. We do a lot of free betting tips as well. And we also do one-to-one coaching. Don't forget that. Get in touch with us if you want it. Give us a thumbs up for now, and subscribe if you wish for more videos like this. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.